Hi, if you're watching this at any other point in time than 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, then please go ahead and scroll at least this much further into the video so that you can land at the beginning and you don't have to hear my introduction, but you're in the live portion of it. I just wanted to share with you that if you are joining us between 10 a.m. and 11 a.m. Pacific time, then that means you're watching us live. But sometimes, whatever platform you're on, they're showing the video to you from the very beginning, even if you could be watching us live, 40 minutes later, basically. So check out that scroller at the bottom to see how far we're into the conversation and join us live so that all your questions will arrive at the right point in the conversation. We can actually answer your questions. So any point that you're joining us, please drop us a note, say, hi, I just joined, and let us know where you're from. We always love hearing where people are from. Okay, with that being said, I'll talk to you in just a second with Erickson Live. Hello and welcome to Erickson Live. My name is Fabian Luetzig. We have another 2-month period for you with a new theme. This theme is all about planning and all kind of things that go into a plan. We have all kinds of different people giving us input. We have master certified coaches. We have the founder of Erickson Coaching International, Dr. Marilyn Atkinson. We have teaching assistants and we have current students that are already seeing success in integrating coaching into their daily lives and even into their business that are actually already making money with coaching, in case you're wondering. So that's exciting. That's what's coming up in these next 2 months. We're always live on Wednesdays at 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time, which is right now, if you're watching this live. The first and the third Wednesday is the current schedule that we've settled on. The first and the third Wednesday. You can also see all the archived videos on our YouTube channel. You can also see them on LinkedIn, but it's a little harder to find them. So just go to YouTube, to the Erickson Coaching International channel, and you find the archive very neatly in inverse chronological order. So if you have missed any episode, if you say, oh, resilience, that would have been a nice topic to hear from Marilyn about, then just go there and you'll see all our videos from February. It's still very relevant, I can assure you. I just also want to let you know very quickly before we get started about, these live streams that we're doing. We are assuming that you have a little bit of a background in coaching. You already know what coaching is, what it isn't. Maybe you're an Erickson graduate looking to get back in touch with other people that get it. And if you haven't, if this is the first time you engage with coaching at all, what I would recommend is that additionally to watching, you also check out the Experience Coach Training online webinar. And you can find that very easy on erickson.edu. And the next, there's 2 of these in July. So these are great opportunities to get a free webinar that is actually like a taste of the course. It's not just a pre-recorded webinar or anything. You're on with a real facilitator from the course. Sometimes I do these. We're on for 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we're basically having a session from the course. We're talking about planning questions. We're talking about the Ericksonian solution-focused arrow. We're talking about how to have people associate into an experience and what that means. And of course, we talk about what the program, the big flagship program of the art and science of coaching is like, and whether it's for you. So that's a great experience to have in case you haven't encountered coaching before. All right, so enough with the introductions. Let's get to today's guest, and today's guest is there he is Derek Picard, and Derek is one of our students that is currently gearing up for Module 4. He has already completed Modules 1, 2, 3. I had the big pleasure of facilitating his Module 1. And Derek is a business coach already. He's still learning, but he is already working as a business coach and advisor. And he helps on focusing and helping. He focuses on and helps owners, entrepreneurs, and organizational leaders to grow. He brings 20 years of experience working with and on behalf of businesses through advising, consulting, and public policy advocacy. As an entrepreneur himself, he's the founder of Power Books by Small Business People Incorporated, which is a digital and people-driven platform that facilitates client service in small business accounting. He's a graduate of the University of Waterloo in Canada. He holds both a bachelor's and a master's degree in applied economics. As a strategic and problem-solving oriented person, Erickson's solution-focused coach training provided invaluable to his approach to serving clients globally. We want to hear a lot more about that. Welcome, Derek. Welcome to Erickson Live.
Thanks for having me. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. So I've been itching to have you on just because I've experienced you as a very like it says here, like a very strategic, problem-solving oriented person. You're also very hands-on kind of person, and I don't perceive you as somebody who loves kind of talking for talking's sake. You know, as we can see from your background, like we were chatting before the session. You like to get things done. And so talking about planning with solution-focused coaching and bringing that in context with the consulting, the advising experience that you have, and then especially, helping small business owners, which are also people that have no time for idle small talk, and that need to get things done in the short term and also in the long term. That was my big scheme of getting you on here because I think you have an amazing background to chat about this.
Yeah, definitely happy to be here.
Cool. So when you say helping people grow, I saw that on your LinkedIn, tagline. That's kind of where everything leads. They have it in all caps, like grow. So might sound like a silly question, but what does grow mean to you? Why is that so important to you?
It's a good question. And if you had asked me 20 years ago, grow would have been something that I would put in. It's like, this is what it means for the client to grow and to grow their business. And over the years, maybe with more gray hairs or lack thereof hair, but also with this great training that we get through in coaching, grow really is a word or a concept that's owned by our clients. Everyone has a different version of what growth is. So when I enter an engagement and with a client, we find out what does that growth mean for them. And that's the first part. So it takes, and that's the beauty of coaching. You don't go into a new relationship with a preconceived conception on what they need. It's you start the conversation, ask the questions, and discover together, what do you need? What are you looking for? And that defines growth for them. That's a big growth part for myself, personally and professionally as well.
Yeah, so it's owned by the client. Got it. And I very much like to think of this stream and this format being owned by the viewers. So I really welcome anybody that's watching right now. So do let us know where you're watching us from. So we have Canada. What neck of the woods are you in Canada again, Derek?
I'm in Toronto.
In Toronto, okay. So yeah, more urban than neck of the woods. So we have Toronto, we have Nairobi.
The one place in Canada that you still will not find a Stanley Cup.
Ooh.
Hockey reference.
Old wounds being opened up here. But you won an NBA title recently, didn't you?
We did. We're very proud of it too.
Yeah, well, there you go. So we have Nairobi, we have Toronto, we have the Czech Republic. Susanna is watching us. We have Salma, who's also in Nairobi, who I also hope to have on as a guest even soon. So Salma, we'll have to talk. We have Maria in Mexico City. So really nice and international crowd as always. And Poland, Iwona is joining from Warsaw. We have Gözde in beautiful Turkey. Sohosh Geldiniz, Gözde. Yeah, so wonderful. So Derek, you also in your class you have people from all over the place, and I think the approach that you're outlining with growing that really is defined by the client, that is really useful when we're talking about international context, right? Because it really isn't one size fits all, especially when we are talking about growing a business, because that is so personal, that is so context dependent,
Mm-hmm.
right? So let us in a little bit into maybe that mindset of what do you think is special about people that are starting a business or that are running a small business, and how are they doing right now?
I think generally when I meet entrepreneurs and small business owners, um, no matter what field or what business they're in, I see them as very creative people. They're people who have taken a big leap to start something new, something challenging, something with risk. And generally, they do what they do very, very well. I've got some amazing clients that, I mean, the stuff they do in their fields is unique and just they do it best. And so I look at everyone as a very creative mind. And that's not necessarily a business mind all the time, right? There's the day-to-day work that entrepreneurs go through to get what they have to get done. And the growth for them, a lot of them sometimes is getting awareness. More often than not, what I find awareness on to transform themselves from working in the business to on the business. And it's a different skill set, mentality. It's a different approach to their day to day. But that's a common theme I see right now, and it's still relevant today. It's been relevant for decades in entrepreneurship, but it's going to continue, and more so right now with the pandemic and people's challenges right now in their businesses, is to reevaluate why are they doing this work? What are their values? What are their priorities? And can they elevate, or how do they elevate themselves, that growth that they're looking for?
So working, what you say, on the business instead of just in the business, is that correct? What's the difference?
Yeah,
What's the
yeah.
difference for
On
you?
the business, it's a. I mean, at the simplest, a very simple example is, the cobbler, makes shoes, or works what they do day to day. But on the business is taking a step back and saying, how am I going to grow the business? How am I going to enable my team to take over some of the role? How do I step back and allow other people to do the work for me so that I can do other functions to grow? But it happens a lot in entrepreneurship and small business owners. You're in the day to day, and it's not because you can't do the on the business work. It's just our minds naturally take us to what we know best, so we gravitate to those tasks. I will do X, Y, and Z because that's what I'm working on every day, and that's a big growth part. And conversations with owners about their growth and where they want to take it kind of unravel some of the things that they know they have to start doing, but it uncovers the barriers to them actually doing it.
I feel like that naturally leads us into the topic of planning, which we're kind of centered around today. So when we talk about planning, you are, consultant or advisor. You said that came first, and then you added the coaching element.
Mm-hmm.
Why? What was missing? Maybe that you thought coaching could add to what it is that you do.
I think a big part of it is people often see business or running a business as a very mechanical thing, where it's a spreadsheet, it's a task list. But there's a human side to everything that we do, not just in business, but in our day-to-day work lives and personal lives. And so, usually if you want to execute on a plan or create a plan or a strategic vision, you have to tap into the person or the people who are involved in this at a deeper level. And it'll do a couple of things. One, it opens up the creativity of the mind for people to actually take themselves out of their day to day and put themselves in a position where they can start focusing on the business or being creative or trying to solve a problem. And secondly, it really attacks, if I think about it, how do you actually execute on any action plans? So if people are part of the co-creation of any plan, they'll naturally value that plan and actually go ahead and be excited to do it. And so where coaching comes in, it's actually facilitating that level of thinking, right? There's a lot of consulting work that's done out there. And I know, Fabian, you and I spoke about it. You're a recovered management consultant.
Still recovering, not quite there yet.
It's still recovering. And there's a lot of frameworks out there that people can go read, these great books on, how to do strategic planning. And there's these great tools like SWOT analysis and pest analysis. But coaching is that facilitation of the thinking and the creativity to use those frameworks. And that's what was missing. So that's why I brought coaching into my day-to-day work.
Got it. Yeah, more creativity, more ownership of the person that is coming up with the plan. So you have some lovely birds in the background. If I could ask you, maybe, like we were saying, if I engage with the folks out there for 1 second, you go close the door. That might facilitate people being able to understand you a little better.
Told you it might happen.
Yeah. We already planned. Look, we had a contingency plan. So there you go. So everybody, what questions might you have for Derek? Or what's your experiences when you talk about planning with doing it through coaching versus some other methodology? Have you been coached before, and have you come up with a plan? What's coming up for you? So what questions do you have? What contributions do you have? Let's make this a big round table. I always love to get as many people at the table as possible. Selma says she loves birds, so we're good there. And we do have a lot of them in Nairobi, but some of them are not great singers. Just look at my little one. Whenever he sees a bird, he goes wah wah, because that's what birds do here. Good. Anyway, So maybe to dive into a little bit more of that distinction, because we might have some people who haven't experienced coaching yet. So you're saying, and a lot of what you're saying, you're already there where a lot of us teaching assistants and facilitators, we're speaking in the lingo, we're co-creating and all of that, which some people might not get, right? So if you, how do you explain this when you have a new client and they expect, okay, Derek will fix my business, Derek will do my business for me. Mm-hmm. How do you explain them kind of what the coaching hat is, what the consulting hat is, and what the justification is for having both of them?
Well, that's something we get a lot, and an example I often use is there's a lot of great consulting work that's done by some very, very smart people out there, and then it lends itself sometimes into 100-page PowerPoint deck, and then all these recommendations, and then it sits there.
Yeah.
Right, you've been there, so you know what I'm talking about, right? So, and then what happens is that where's that motivation to implement it? Were other people involved internally in creating that solution? Do people view as a consultant coming in saying, "Here's what's wrong with your business, and I'm going to fix it for you"? And people say, "Well, you've been here 5 minutes. What do you know about our business?" But the coaching approach is, listen, you are very capable individuals. You have a very capable team of people working for you. They know best in the business. They really do. So let's tap into that, right? And let's tap into their knowledge and their motivations with their shared values to create the solution. In a sense, create their own deck themselves, but they own it. And we all know what happens when we have ownership on the solution. We actually have a motivation to implement afterwards. And that's the distinction between consulting, advising. Advising is, I'm going to tell you, this is what you have to do with your business, right? As opposed to let people work on it together and then come up with the solutions together and implement.
Yeah, what you just said, that's something I had to learn throughout 5 years of management consulting, because I was working a lot of employee engagement. And basically, we always had the most success in sourcing the ideas from the employees of the company themselves, right? And then zhuzhing it up a little bit and then presenting is like, wow, how did you come up with that? I was like, It was your people. It was here all along. Honestly, if you were doing your job right, you wouldn't need us. Not quite those words, but yeah, like a lot of knowledge is already there. It's floating around, and a lot of people that look like they're actively disengaged, or they are actively disengaged, is because their ideas have been tossed into the bin 4 times in a row. And if you actually manage to get them on board, they would be invaluable resources. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but yeah.
But it's also, as you're mentioning, is bringing all those ideas and creating a safe environment where everyone's ideas actually do contribute as a whole to something together, which is very, very positive. And that's what's really, really fascinating and amazing about coaching. You create a positive environment for people to contribute and then build on it, because that's part of brainstorming. It's part of the collective experience and growth that you do together.
Yeah, exactly. And that's a very creative process, like you were saying, right? And there's a whole thing we could get into about creativity. But in terms of planning, one might say, what's the use of planning? Like, why plan anymore? With everything that's going on, and just everything is crazy. Ships get stuck in the Suez Canal. Pandemics are happening left and right. Why should I plan? What would you say to those people? Why is planning still important?
Planning is still very much important, because at the end of the day, it's we recognize there's going to be challenges. You can't predict everything. I'd hate to be the person that has to come up with every permutation and combination. Even a mathematician would say, there's a level of uncertainty in there. But you plan because, and some people, they've gone through this experience before. If there's a direction that the business wants to take, that vision, or what are the values, it doesn't matter what's thrown at you. You still plan towards that direction. There might be some curveballs, but the direction is set. And that's part of why you do some planning with some coaching and facilitation. You might alter your plans, but the direction is still the same, unless something fundamental changes.
Got it. And how do I say this? So how does coaching, in your mind, support that adapting? How does a plan that has been created through coaching? Well, I'll ask more neutrally. How's that different from a plan that is basically given to the person as a best recipe?
I think if you give a recipe, a pre-planned route on here's what you must do to succeed to create your business, and maybe there's parts of that doesn't align with you as a person, as an entrepreneur, right? Everyone goes into business for different reasons, and I think everyone would agree on that. We have different, money is one of them, but people, like I said, I experience entrepreneurs as very creative. There's something different on why they do what they do. So you can give them a recipe saying, you must do X, Y, and Z in order to be successful. But if the result is, yes, money, but some sort of externality that you're not happy with, it's not your plan, right? And now you're starting to see a lot more businesses that might have other values put into their plans, which is they want to be eco-friendly. They want to be more environmentally friendly. They want to give back to the community. That's at their core. That's them as people, as an entrepreneur, as an owner, even their staff and the people working in the business. So a recipe is great, but what is it that makes it truly unique, that motivates and keeps people moving forward? That's the difference between a preset recipe.
Yeah. And Anne is, or Anne, I'm not quite sure, is a little bit on 5 minutes behind us, I think. So Anne, if you want to, feel free to scroll forward and join us live. He says, indeed, the key is creating a safe environment to help the team co-create where each stakeholder feels heard, valuable, and capable. And so fully in agreement there. Maria has a question for us, and it's also on the team part. So how do you help a team to go past the habit of not sharing new ideas, being creative because they are not confident or comfortable with not being perfect? So there's a couple of things in there. I hear a little bit of people are in silos. we still have to keep up appearances. I can't be vulnerable. I don't trust the other people to kind of hold that safe space for myself. So how do you promote this safe space that you've been talking about for creativity?
A big part of that really comes, and this is when we work with leaders, is leadership. It starts from the top. It comes from, the leaders being an example, showing that it's okay to make mistakes and to be safe. But also it's a little bit of a plug for Erickson here, but it's an Ericksonian principle, which we try to say is that everyone is making recommendations from a positive place. People are making recommendations from the best place that they can. And that's the first part of starting a positive environment. It's, whenever there's a negative, we ask, what's the positive? What's the other side of that can happen? And it takes time. It's not something that would happen immediately, but it starts from leading by example, creating that environment and showing people. And then the second part of it is, and I talk about this a lot with some folks, is and it's something unique, is let your team create the agenda. Let's come together and create an environment where it's driven from them. I mean, if the meeting agenda, for example, is here's a problem that we want to solve, and that's the discussion, as opposed to kind of laying out a fixed framework, it does create more openness on that. So leadership, and then really let the team drive the agenda.
Yeah, we have a whole live stream digging more into that and how to grow as a leader with solution-focused coaching. So that's going to be coming up in the beginning of August. So that's also going to be great. Two things. One is somebody might hear that and say, well, then what's my role? Like, what's the point of me being a manager if the team is doing the agenda? Isn't that how I can show that I have value and that I'm contributing things? And the other thing, I totally agree with you, is that habit is actually a big keyword in Maria's question there. Like creating a new habit. And that is something that is not created overnight. That is not something that can be kind of
exactly
turned around in like one big gesture, or like I write a memo to everybody and that's the way it is. But it's something that you have to create. Muscle memory is how I always like to say it. It's just that subconscious habit of, I'm going to share my idea, and then I'm going to think about whether it's a good one or not. But first I'm going to share it. And creating habits easily takes 21 days to 90 days. And on if it's a bit of a company culture thing, that I would bet good money that it takes longer than that. So it's something that will have dips and setbacks, and it's something to be worked on over and over and over again until it just becomes a mantra, and you develop that muscle memory.
And that goes back to what you mentioned earlier about planning. What's the point of planning if there's a recipe? There is no set recipe, but if you have a plan to create a culture of coaching, leadership through coaching, you have a direction. You have your mission statement to go into that direction. You will make different dips and turns here and there, but you come back, reevaluate, and keep pushing forward. And that muscle memory will come naturally over time. But it's not an instantaneous solution. You're absolutely right.
So how do you know that you have a good plan? I mean, I know that, plans can change, and there's the quote that I put in the description, which I absolutely love, is everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth by Mike Tyson. But how do you know that you've planned enough? Because some people, they're all about planning, and they love planning, and planning is the safe space. And, in planning, nothing can go wrong. So how do I know that I've got it? How do I know I can move on from planning into actually doing things?
I think the key to that, and bringing it back to what I said earlier, is first off, even preceding that, is the plan is never done. It's a living document. It's a living process. What is a permanent thing, unless there's a fundamental shift in the business and the values of the people in the business, is what's the vision, what are the values, what are the priorities, what's the mission that we're all on board for. That does not change. But the plan, it's successful when I think one acknowledges, or people acknowledge, that it's a living document that you continuously reevaluate, right? It's kind of like a budget. Not to go into accounting mode here, but you have a budget for the month and for your quarter, for your organization. At the end, a budget is just a budget if it's just a document. But those of us who have work or work with large organizations know every month or every quarter there's planned spending versus actual spending. What's the disparity? You create an environment where we can reevaluate. How did we do? Was it realistic? Do we need to adjust things? Those are kind of like the micro things. But that's what a plan is. It's just that. Otherwise, it's just a spreadsheet or a deck, a PowerPoint that's nice and pretty. So always reevaluate.
Yeah, you mentioned the word awareness earlier, and I think that kind of resonates with me in that context, that a plan really helps you gain awareness. Where are you? Where do you want to go? What's the delta? And how's that shifting? Like, are you moving closer? Are you moving further away? Or is the to be moving in a different directions because external circumstances are playing a trick, or things like that? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So, how do you plan then with your clients? Like when you talk about, okay, so this, we're going to be working together, and the plan of that work together that is you do. How do you go about it? Also in terms of, what do people want to be coached around? Kind of this bigger plan on the coaching journey versus, okay, today I want to talk about this, and how does that fit in with the larger journey? Let us in a little bit about how you do that.
Usually I start off, and because I work with a lot of business founders and entrepreneurs, we really focus early on what are the priorities and the values of the business owner, of the founders, if there's several of them together as a group, and where do they want to take that. Otherwise, you get the rest. You could be planning a lot of stuff for things that aren't as important as they thought it would be. And I know you would appreciate this, Fabian, and some of the folks who are already coaching now. More often than not, when we do an exercise on prioritizations or eliciting people's values, they discover, that's the awareness part, that something is not as important as they thought it would be, or not as impactful to their end goal as they thought. And that's the fundamental discussion to start with. And so that brings us back to on the business versus in the business. Because sometimes we're just go. We're just doing things. And a lot of us are all self-employed entrepreneurs as well. So we're busy. But when we step back and say, when I really reflect on that, maybe it's not that important that we are in this market or we do this project. We should focus here. Now that's where you start your planning from. But that is usually the central piece that drives any type of planning.
Okay, so the values. That brings up something for me where I'd love to get your take on it, to see what you think, especially with the crowd that you're working on. But to me, I've always had the feeling that this artificial distinction that we're having between the people that we are at work and the people that we are at home is exaggerated, overblown, and with that also this niche of, oh, I'm a business coach and I'm a life coach. It's very artificial, very not really adding any value, because especially when we talk about small business, the business lives off the passion of the entrepreneur and of the founder, and
That's right.
and like thrives or withers with the energy that person has. So I don't know, like the dietary plan that person has, or the sleep rhythm can really impact your business. So yeah, so what's your take on that? How much does the kind of the private life spill over into the business performance?
I can only smile a lot on that one. It's so much, and it's interesting. I have a couple coaches myself that I work with, and they've always told me, and I'm a firm believer in this, I've seen it over the years, is as a business coach, you're coaching the person. You're always coaching the person as a whole. So ultimately, a lot of the challenges that executives or business owners or founders have to grow their business is within themselves, right? And I probably, honestly, I see it 90% of the time. 90% of the time, that is actually a lot of the work right then and there. Um, you know, the energy of any entrepreneurial venture comes from the founders, right? So if that energy is negative for whatever reason, whether poor habits at home, family, health, that spills into your team. Inevitably does, and that kind of impacts the culture. So it's to answer your question, 90% of the time it is it. It's especially with small business, definitely it. And I would argue even with larger organizations as well, as I've seen it. Is, if senior level executives have their own challenges, again, it trickles down. So
Yeah, and I would argue that what we're talking about is even more so ever since COVID, just because when you work from home and you don't have that energy, that direct kind of energetic exchange with other people in the same room, they really, you have to have some sort of intrinsic motivation to deliver, and to make things happen. There was a follow-up question that I wanted to ask. It kind of seems to have slipped away for the moment. Darn it. It was a good one. Like, I was really looking forward to asking that question. I don't know. What question do you want me to ask you next instead?
oh, there you go. I've done that trick before too. I think one of the things is, if we were to talk about, especially small business owners, about 200 employees or less is how I define small business. What do they need to pay attention to right now? I mean, there's something going on right now in some, especially in the Western nations right now, is with COVID kind of dissipating. We hope a bit.
Some
There's
parts
talk
of the world.
businesses reopening. Some parts of the world? What are we going to do? What do small business owners need to think about? And I think, and I say this from experience with my existing clients right now, is what do they need to pay attention to is reevaluate your values and priorities, right? There's some businesses that, whether they were on the business, the owners, they went back into the trenches out of necessity. They had to get in there because the world was really different. But ask yourself, has anything changed in your values? And I'm actually finding a lot of people, there has been a shift in their values, a different appreciation for health, family, time. And then ask yourself those questions, and then maybe that trickles into what your business functions are. I've actually seen some people decide to actually leave the business altogether because of a shift in their values, given what the world just went through and is currently going through.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you for that. And I actually remember I wasn't going to ask a question. I was going to show off with with something that I'd read. No, there's an amazing article by Harvard Business Review, detailing, based on a survey, detailing that actually the senior executives that they polled sleep more than any other category on the hierarchy of a certain company. So senior executives supposedly get the most sleep. Not everybody agrees with me when I say this. Some people are very skeptical. But if it's true, to the degree that it is true, I think obviously you can have the cynical view of this. It's like, oh yeah, okay, they let other people do the work and they, golf and sleep in and I don't know what. But if you have a little more of a, what can we learn from this kind of view, I think those people have learned that sleeping, resting, that's not selfish, that's not lazy, that's part of the job. Like it's your job as a leader to stay functional and to stay healthy and to model good behavior and to still be in peak condition in 5 years. Because if you burn out in 2 years, what good is that for the company?
That's right, and that's right. And fostering a healthy work environment and culture, again, takes leadership from them to actually exemplify, but also to make sure the teams are doing that. On that, I did see, an article recently. I forgot there was one company that recently went public and just gave, I think, every employee in the company a week or two off, and just for mental health, because the stress that they've been going through. Sleep is at the core of everything. Our own physical health. Like Fabian, you had mentioned earlier, and we had a chat ahead of time about what's behind me. Physical fitness is important in my household as well, and a conversation I have with a lot of my clients is, we talk about coaching and fitness and what's the dynamic. You can have some very, very smart, intelligent individuals If they want to lose weight, they know what they have to do: eat 2,000 calories, balance how many macros, all that. But there's more to it. Sleep is one of them. It's one of the driving things to recover, stay healthy, mind, body, and soul. And you have to take that into account. Hence the coaching. The coaching is smart people know how to lose weight or gain muscle, whatever they might want to do. But why is it that they don't do it? That's coaching the person. It's the same thing with dealing with business owners. Coach the person. They could be the smartest at business. Why aren't they moving? Why aren't they performing? There's something else going on. And that's where those conversations, and the most important is, as you know, the rapport we build with the individual really comes into play.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So often, like, I am blown away by the people that I get to work with, by the people that I get to coach, people where I think I could never do their job. And I'm so thankful that coaching is a methodology where I don't have to be better than them at their job. I can focus on how do I put them in a mindset that allows them to access everything they have. I always cite a couple of examples where I've coached a lawyer in the pharmaceutical industry, responsible for basically preventing the company from getting sued in the States. So billions of dollars at stake. Coached a little brain scientist, and all kinds of other people where I have no idea basically what they're doing. But I don't need to, because they are so good at what they do. They are so inspiring. They are so passionate about what it is they do. And just helping them bring that out and focus on what's really important to them, like you're saying, like helping them to prioritize, that's just something that I'm thankful for every day. And I find that, besides checking in, like, how's your body doing, how's the sleep going, and all of that, something that is really, really super helpful is allowing people to become aware of what's most important right now. So I'm basically, for everybody who knows, I'm talking about the balance wheel exercise, and just focusing in on where's that lever, where is that lever that allows you that if you do this one thing, 5 other areas in your life will benefit from that as well, so that you get out of that overwhelm and you have things in a bit of a more neat package, and you can say, okay, I can allow myself to just focus on this and just be present with this one thing, rather than having to do the social media and the budget and the client work and the acquisition and I don't know what and the administration. So what's coming up for you as you're hearing that?
What's coming up is a conversation I have time and time again with my colleagues, both at Erickson and other coaches, is the one tool I use a lot, nonstop. It's the balance wheel. Just that give a visual depiction to people and seeing what are your priorities or what are the aspects of your work or anything in your life that will have the biggest impact on what you're trying to achieve. 95% of the time, I say 99% of the time, to be honest, is like it really does uncover, wow, this is not as important. Only once has it actually come about where it's a 1%. That's a good statistic. Where someone said, yeah, it's exactly what I thought. And we had a conversation about that yesterday. But it is the most common thing and tool that I use. And it's whether you use it with teams or groups or or just one person, it's always the starting point. The starting point of the relationship or the group on setting a plan, back to the context of planning. There's no point of writing a whole plan and then realize, well, those aren't our priorities. It all becomes a moot point.
Yeah. Hey, maybe that's a good question to ask the audience. Since we have quite a few coaches with us, what's your favorite coaching tool? Maybe especially when it comes to planning. Do you also use the wheel a lot? Are you talking about values a lot, like Derek is? Are you always putting the planning questions in there that we have in Erickson? Let us know what's kind of your go-to. What's your joker, if you will, in terms of helping people plan through coaching. Derek, I want to shift gears just a little bit. We have about 15 minutes left, and you shared with me that Selma says logical levels and the wheel. Yeah, that's a big one. Asking, like, who are you
Totally agree.
becoming? Who are you becoming? Who's that benefiting? What's your vision? What's your legacy? Where's this all going? Those can often be very, very powerful discussions. Yeah. So, Derek, you were sharing with me, you already completed your 100 hours. So, for anybody who doesn't know, if you want to attain the entry level ICF certification, you part of it, so you have to do, obviously you have to collect a certain number of coach training hours. I think it's 64. Don't nail me down on it, but if you do the art and science of coaching modules 1 and 2, you're definitely there. But that's not all. You also have to actually go out and coach people. It's not just theoretical. You have to get your rubber to the road. And I noticed that, having seen lots of people graduate, that some people have a hard time getting started, right? Some people, haven't quite figured out the plan for how to best become a coach. And I mean, a lot of the coaching conversations that we have in class are, I want to figure out how to get my 100 hours and that sort of thing. But there's something around planning to become a coach, So if we're like changing our tagline a little bit to planning for solution-focused coaching, like what's the best way to become a solution-focused coach? Knowing that there's no fixed recipe out there and everybody has to find their own path, but what are some of the lessons learned that you might bestow upon people in terms of how to get it done well?
I think it's not to be broad, but it might sound. It's just at the end is one key thing is to recognize that in coaching as a profession, the most important aspect is the rapport you have with the coachee. That's the most powerful thing, is trust and rapport. And no Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever other tools are out there. And this is something I've learned just over years in my own business. But and I've done them all. But that's not what's going to build it. It's build a meaningful connection with people, and that starts with conversations. And I know Erickson has a program that's very important on that, the art and science of business building, and that's part of what's taught there as well. So I really identify with the themes in there. But it's start with conversations first, and that's how you build, right? When we start, we again talk about the recipes that are out there on how to plan. There's lots of recipes. Oh, you have to get a website. You got to get a business card. You have to get Twitter. You have to do that before you know it. Listen, I can't keep up with it myself. There's so much stuff out there, different tools. I just learned about this. What is it my kids are using now for DMing with it never ends. Start with conversations. Honest, true conversations is key. And I think the second one is, and this is just my true personal belief, don't give anything out for free. Because we really are truly helping individuals. If we're really good at what we do, and we, in our own confidence, we know we are, you're helping them. And, it's, if you want this to be a full-time profession, it's you have value. And that's actually a big part on building our own confidence in being entrepreneurs, is I can do this and I should charge for it.
Yeah. Oh, there's so much there. Yes. So let's dig into that. And that actually also ties in with planning, right? Because I find that if you charge people for something, then you have to have a plan for what you're doing. If you say, well, I'm not charging, I don't have to put a lot of effort into it, I can just wing it and that sort of thing. But if I have the ambition to make money off of it, then it forces me to be accountable also to myself, to my client, but also to myself, so that I can accept that money with a good conscience. And by the way, I completely agree with you that definitely, there is such a thing as cappuccino coaching, right? Like when somebody...
I remember you saying that.
Yeah, when somebody pays for your coffee and you coach them in return, then that counts as paid for your hours. So that that can be nice to get started, to get to those double digits, to have like 10 hours under your belt or something. But past that, I think you should really charge something more substantial. And you don't even have to keep the money. If you're not comfortable with having that money for yourself, then just donate that money. Like really either have the client choose what foundation it goes to, or have a certain one where you say all money automatically goes to the puppy shelter or whatever. So don't keep the money, but charge it, because it will transform the way that you approach your business, because that's ultimately what it's supposed to be. And a lot of coaches just want to help people, and I'm not so sure yet, and who am I to say to charge money for this, because I've only had 2 months of coach training or whatever. But it fundamentally shifts the perspective that people are like looking at you, that they're perceiving you, because if something is free, it's not, it usually doesn't get valued as much, as I'm saying that on a free live stream, but it's just the way it is.
But you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. And one of the things to remember is coaches in starting in this journey are entrepreneurs themselves. And if they've never become entrepreneurs, like I said, I work with 2 different coaches now to help me. And I've been at this, in various shapes and different entrepreneurial ventures for 20 years. It's get a coach, get help. You don't have to do it alone. The most powerful thing that we can do, and this is not just for coaching, but also I've always been a believer in this. When you start a business, get a mentor. Someone that's seen or been there. There's a lot of, if you can avoid some of the pitfalls, and yes, there's new stuff, and we always say, well, it's different now. There's the internet. I mean, I've said that myself to folks. But there's certain things that are always fundamental. And to learn and absorb that from someone, get a mentor or a coach to help you through it. Don't do it alone. It's the best investment that you can make.
When should I get what? Like, when should I turn to a coach? When should I focus on getting a mentor?
I think it depends on what you need. Sometimes a mentor is basically going to tell you, this is what you need to do. Here's what I've seen and experienced. Whereas a coach is kind of digging at, as you know, what's going on. It's preventing you from sending that proposal to your client. What's going on in terms of your confidence, and work through that. I find, I don't know if you agree with this or not, a lot of coaches kind of balance both of them. Right? You're mentoring and you're coaching at the same time. If you have a niche, right? And in myself, I kind of balance sometimes in my own businesses. Sometimes I take the coach hat and I tell the client that this is what I advise on doing, because I don't want to waste an hour of their time on something that could be done immediately. But that's something that you and I have talked about a lot. On what is that fine line, and how do we do that? So
it is, and I mean, there's all kinds of coaches out there that have a different balance, right? And there's also all kinds of schools out there that teach that balance a little bit differently. Erickson is very much towards the pure kind of coach approach, where it's like we really hold client has all the answers. Any shortcut that we think we're doing them a favor, usually we just curtail their learning and take the power away from them, and making them a little bit dependent on us, which is really what we don't want. The old adage of teach a man how to fish, has to eat for his life, etc. That being said, I mean, and I always encourage anybody that, because having this discussion in every course, basically, right? And I always encourage people to just sit with that first and really understand it, and really, walk a mile in those shoes and see the value of that before you then go and say, okay, well, in certain situations, I have a program where I teach people something and then I coach them around what I've taught them or something. There's all kinds of different methodologies. And I recently, like right now, I'm teaching a group in Ethiopia. And that's also very, very interesting, because just culturally, from the school system, and the way people are growing up and everything, it's the idea of coaching being like they're in control is something profoundly uncomfortable for them. And it's just like, yeah, I heard you. I know that you're not supposed to tell me anything, but come on, tell me. Like I will profit so much from you telling me, and I really value your opinion. And it's like, so that's what my current coaching students are really struggling. It's like, I want to give my client what they're asking for, but on the other hand, I know that by empowering them, I can give them something that they have never received in their life. So that's a bit of that tension, this creative tension that they're in right now. So, what would you tell them?
It's I tell them to embrace it, that feeling that they have, and then to ponder on it a bit, and then just to imagine where they were prior to being empowered versus where they're going, and then let them chart out their path, right? And then naturally they'll make their decisions on which way they want to go with that. Yes, we want to continue to be empowered. And, when you mentioned that, there's an example that I can't remember in the Erickson modules. We talked about the mastery walk. And I forgot who it is at Erickson. It might have been Richard, I'm not sure, in his presentation that talked about going to in Asia and teaching a mastery walk. And I think it was some country in Asia where you had to change the name of the exercise because culturally to use the word mastery was just didn't sit well. But the exercise was still the same. And so, we have to adjust to everything that we do. But that's, again, going back to your very first question, the word grow. It's owned by the client. And if grow has to be a different word to get the same results, we work with it. Our role is to help them get there.
Yeah, I love that. It's kind of bringing full circle. So everybody, we have just a couple of minutes left. What might be one last question that you have for Derek? What might be a comment? What is something that you are taking away from today's session? What have you created for yourself by being here? Derek, kind of as we're heading towards the landing here, what is something that you might want to underline of the things that we mentioned, or what is something that we might not have had a chance to mention yet that you really want people to take with them?
I think to share with them that I think this goes to some discussions that you and I have had in the past, Fabian, is staying in coach position is we sometimes make it look easy, but it's not always easy, especially if you are coming from a background as consultant or advisor. And I can't stress enough how powerful, much more powerful your relationship is with your client or the organization is if you stick to the coaching and help those individuals grow it. And I'm really reminded of an engagement I'm on right now where, the Derek 20 years ago would go in and do the consultant and have all these billable hours and, but I'd be busy like crazy. But it's reminding yourselves to stay in that coach position and let other people make mistakes. I think one of the questions we had is from someone saying, how do you actually allow people to make mistakes? And by coaching, we're creating that environment. We're saying, go research, go do, I'm here to help you, guide, coach. You'll make mistakes, but the organization, the leadership is behind you on that. It's hard, but it's just truly believe it's much more impactful to stay in that coach position.
Yeah, thank you for that. That is a really valuable reminder, especially, when you coach people, from an organization that you used to work in, or you're coaching people in an industry that you've been part of for decades. You can really easily be drawn into, well, here's how I would do it, or put in questions that technically, grammatically, they're questions, but really they're kind of advice in the form of questions, and it can really easily slip in there. And it's always so surprising and so rewarding when people struggle, but then they have that resolution. They come up with their own thing, and they're like, "This is it. This is my way." And that is, very selfishly, that's a huge rush for me. It's when people have that insight, much more than if I kind of tell them something, then it either works or it doesn't. And it's also risky, honestly. If you tell them something doesn't work out, this is not, it's not the best advertisement. Yeah. All right. So, Derek, thank you so much. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We are slowing down here. I just want to remind people one more time. That there are 2 instances of experience coach training online coming up. So just go to erickson.edu to learn more. I'll also put a link in the chat that brings you directly to kind of the sub page. Derek, by any chance, did you go through experience coach training online, or did you sign up directly without doing the webinar? It's a free webinar that people can do without signing up or anything. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes.
No, I did not do that, no.
Okay, well, just checking in to see if you have any stories to tell or anything like that. Well, for me, it was really, I was planning to have this Excel sheet and compare all these different coaching schools and consultant, right? And in the end, I just, at the end of that time, for me, it was just, I'm home. Like, this is the people that I want to be around. There's this saying that you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you have enjoyed spending time with us today, then you know what you're in for. Then you know the type of kind of philosophy, the type of approach to coaching and to, dare I say, life in general that you're getting. And if you like hanging out with us, then you'll love doing the coach training, because it's more than just the knowledge that you get. It's also the people that are there with you. It's the self-development that you're going through. There's a lot of insight that you're developing for yourself, and experience coach training online gives you a first taste of that. So if you are not quite ready, because coach training is quite an investment, I'm definitely aware of that. And if you just need one more step to see if this really what I want, is this really the next step for me, then experience coach training online is a good next step, because it's a little more contained. Like, you sign up, it's 2 hours 15 minutes you set up aside just for this. Whereas the live stream, you can go in and out, you're shopping while you're listening to us or whatever. So highly encourage you to go and sign up for that. And let me know what you think. Let me know if you're starting, if you kind of found coaching through this, or if this helped you make a decision in any way. Really love to hear some of that feedback. Right, with that, Derek, one more time, thank you so much. You're being very generous with your time. I think it's so invaluable to hear from somebody in your position, not just from facilitators, teaching assistants, and the like. And actually, Anne is saying, I agree, Fabian. And Erickson, I found the home too. Thank you for the session, Fabian and Derek. So thank you so much for that feedback.
Our pleasure.
Yeah. All right, everybody. Have a wonderful rest of the day. We'll see you in 2 weeks when we talk about helping teams plan together. We're going to have a 3-person panel. One of them is an MCC, so that's always fun, to hear from those people that have gone through it all, and are coming kind of out on the side of enlightenment. And are just coaching gurus in a way. So with that, let me leave you. Derek, hope to speak again soon. And
We will, for sure.
Anybody that has any questions, please post them in the chat and we'll get them to Derek, and maybe we can answer them in writing. And with that,
happy to do that. Yeah.
Thank you so much. All right. Take care and keep changing the world one conversation at a time.